Hi, welcome to my video on solving equations with fractions. To solve an equation with integers, we follow a certain procedure. We bring the x's to the left side, numbers to the right side. So we're still going to do the same thing with fractions. The only thing is we have to add fractions, which means we need a common denominator. Let's do some examples. A, 1/3 x plus 2 equals 4. So the x stays on the left side and the numbers move to the right side. So plus 2 becomes minus 2. 1/3 x equals 2. Now, because we have a fraction, we can multiply. Normally I would divide by 1/3. So let's show you that division by 1/3. So if I divide each side by 1/3, they cancel out, and I have to work out 2 divided by 1/3. So that's the same as 2 times 3 over 1. And that gives you 6. But if you look at the 1/3 and multiply by 3 on each side, multiplying each side by 3 keeps the equality there. So 3 times 1/3 is 1. And 2 times 3 is 6. So you're going to either multiply by, when you have a fraction, you can multiply at the end by the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1/3 is 3, and 3 times the reciprocal gives you 1. Again, there's nothing wrong with taking the 2 and dividing by 1/3, multiplying by reciprocal to get the 6. Your choice. B, 3x minus x equals 1/2. The plus x becomes a negative and the minus becomes a plus. And 3x minus 1x is 2x equals 2. Now, we can do this the same here. So I'm going to write this down again. So it's 2 choices. I can go divide by 2. So that cancels out. I get x equals as 1/2 divided by 2. So that's 1/2. Dividing by 2 is multiplying by 1 over 2. So that gives you 1/4 x. You could have done it that way. Or, because as a 2, you can multiply by the reciprocal called a half. Why? Because 1/2 times a half gives you 1. And a half times a half is a quarter. So again, do you want to divide by the 2 and work this out? Or do you just want to multiply each side by a half? Your choice. And I like to if I have a 2 here, instead of with this fraction, I like to multiply by a half. But that's obey either way. C, I have to add these fractions. There's no x's are on the left, numbers are on the right, so I don't have to transpose anything. So when we add, we need common denominators. And the common denominator for 2 and 4 is 4. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times -1 is -2. I have to make a negative half equivalent to -2 over 4 because I need common denominators, which is a 4. -2 plus 1 is -1 and is equal to 2. So I have to add these fractions or subtract them, common denominators. Now, I have a fraction, so I can multiply both. I got 2 choices, and I'll keep doing this for a while. One choice is to multiply by -4 on both sides. And the -4 times -1/4 is a 1. And 2 times -4 is -8. That's one way. Or you can divide both sides by -1/4. Okay, so that cancels. Now I got 2 divided by -1/4. So that's 2 times -1 over 4 becomes -4 over 1, because when I divide, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. And so 2 times -1 over 4 is -8. So your choice. You have 2 ways to do it. It's you who have to know what you're doing. 2/3 x equals 6. So I will multiply both sides by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3 over 2. you cancel. Notice I get 2/3, 3 over 2 times 2/3. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. That's 6 over 6, which is 1. When you multiply by the reciprocal, you should get a 1. And here, that's 6 over 1. So 2 into 6 goes 3. 3 times 3 makes 9. So multiplying by the reciprocal is the nice way to do it. E, I have brackets, so I have to multiply 1/2 by 2. 1/2 times 2 is 1. I'll put the 1 there. 1/2 times 4 is 2. 1/3 times 9 is 3. 1/3 times -3 is -1. So notice, when you're multiplying, just a little tiny review. 1/2 times 2. 2 is over 1, so the 2's cancel. The 1/3 times 9, 3 goes into 9 3 times, so you get 3 times 1. Now we add up the like terms. 4x plus 1 equals -7. I could have grouped these together, but now I'm getting used to it. So 1 plus 3 is 4. And the numbers go to the right side to become a minus. +1 minus 1. 4x equals -8. When I add, I divide by 4. I get x equals -2. F. X's go to the left side. So when I do, I get a -1/3 x. And the -4, the 3 is coming over to become a -3. So x is to the left, numbers to the right. And change the signs when you move. I need a common denominator for fractions. So a common denominator here is 12. 3 and 4 have a common denominator of 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times -1 is -3. 4 times 3 is 12, so 4 times -1 is -4. So notice 3 over 12 reduces to 1/4. 4 over 12. So when I divide 3 into 12, I get 4. 4 times 1. So both fractions. And I could add these right away because they're separate, so that I could make that a -7. -4, -3, -7. Since I'm adding these, so notice that's a negative there. So if you want, you can make that a plus a -4. So common denominator is 12. Add up, I get a -7x. -7 over 12x equals -7. Now I multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So if I multiply by -12 over 7, -12 over 7. When you do the reciprocal, you keep the same sign. So if that's a negative, reciprocal is negative. You flip the 7 over 12 around to get 12 over 7. So that they all cancel out. 12, see, they all canceling. And a negative times negative positive. That's a negative. That's a 1 right there. Negative times a negative is a positive. And over here, I put, if you think about it, put the 7 over 1. Cancel. 7 into 7 goes once. 7 into that goes -1. -1 times 12 is -1 times -12 is 12. So it just takes a while to get you. But I'm solving equations with fractions. It just keeps your math skills going with fractions. If you keep reviewing and reviewing and reviewing, after a while, it just becomes a nice, you just remember it. But if you only see it every now and then, you have a tendency to forget. So practice means what? Pause the video and work the 40s out to see if you're going to be okay. So 2 times 1/2 is 1. The 2's cancel out, notice. 2 times 1 is 2. -6 times negative, so that's a positive. The 3 cancels into 6 twice, so that's a 2x. Negative times negative is positive. 6, so you got -6 times 1/6. So I'm doing it right here. So that's 6's cancel. So I get a -1. Negative times a positive is negative. X's go to the left, change the sign. Numbers go to the right, change the sign. -x, -3. That's a 1. So that's -1. So divide by -1 on each side. X becomes 3. Okay, let's continue. I'm multiplying this one by, the reciprocal is a negative 4 over 3 times negative 3 over 4. Multiply the 12 by a negative 4 over 3. You keep the same sign, but you flip the fraction. And notice that's a 12 over 12, which is 1. They cancel out. 4's cancel, 3's cancel, and a negative times a negative is a positive. And the 12, again, is over 1 understood. So 3 goes into 3 once, 3 into 12 goes 4. That's a negative 16. Number 3, x is okay because it's on the left. The 1 goes to the right, become plus. That gives me a half x equals 5. I have a half, so I multiply by 2. Reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1, or 2. Multiply 5 by 2. The 2's cancel, because 2 times a half is 1. They cancel out. And that gives me a 10. And just quick check. If you put 10 right here, a half of 10 is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. Yeah, a quick check. And number 4, the x's are already on the left side, numbers on the right side. I need, common denominator is already there. So my common denominator is 3. So 1 plus 4 is 5. X. So I'm adding the fractions the same as I add integers. When I add, I have to have like terms of x's. And these are already common. Now I multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And the reciprocal is 3 over 5 times 3 over 5 on both sides. And the 3's cancel, 5's cancel. I get out x. Notice that's a 15 over 15, which is 1. That's another way to make sure. The 10 is over 1. The denominator cancels into the 10. 5 into 5 goes once. 5 into that goes negative 2. So I get a negative 6 when I multiply. Okay. Let's continue. And we have more practice. More practice, more practice. The more we practice, the better. Okay. And x is on the left. As a minus becomes a plus. Numbers on the right. Minus becomes a plus. And we add up these two. We need a common denominator is 4. So that's a 1/4, okay. 4 is a common denominator. 2 and 4 will divide into 4. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. So 2 over 4 is the same as a half. And if I want to add these, I can get 3. Common denominator is 4. We add up our numerators to get 3. Keep the x. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal. 4 over 3. 4 over 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 12, they cancel out. And you can do that if you want, because they're multiplying. Cancel top to bottom. And the 3 is over 1. So that's understood to be over 1. 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into 3 goes once. That gives me a 4. 3 times 4 over 3 is a 4. Number 6, x's are on the left, numbers are on the right, so I multiply both sides by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/3 is 3. Multiply both sides by 3. 1/3 is 3 over 1 understood. So when you 1/3, reciprocal is just 3 or 3 over 1. The 3's cancel out. 3 over 3 is 1. And that's a 3 over 1 understood. So no cancellation. So 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4. So the answer to this one is 3/4. Number 7. Oh, PEMDAS. Notice we have the PAMDAS. We have to do the inside of our brackets first, because we always say simplify the inside. That's an 8. We got to do our, in here we do our squares. 3 squares is 3 times 3 is 9. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 is 8. Notice that's the 2's cubed. That's not. Notice it's not this. That's the negative of 2 cubed, which is 8. 2 times 2 times 2. This is not negative 2 cubed. That's the subtraction of 2 cubed. And keep going. And that's an 8. 9 minus 8 is 1. And notice we keep writing it down if you wish. and that's an 8. Now we're ready to simplify the left side. The common denominator is 3. So that's a 2 over 1. So that's a 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 over 3 is the same as 2 over 1. Common denominator is a 3. And that gives me common denominator of 3. Keep that. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 over 3x equals 8. And because that's a 4 over 3 times x, I'll multiply by the reciprocal of 3 over 4. And they cancel, so you know that's an x. And 4 into 8 goes 2. 2 3s make 6. Remember, that's 8 over 1. So the 4 here is canceling into the 8 because the 8 is 8 over 1. Cancel numerator to denominator, so I have a 6. Number 8. 2/5 times x is 2/5 x. 2/5 times negative 10. And just go up on the side here. This is what I do on a sheet of paper. Write it down. And then I say, well, that's 5 into negative 10 is negative 2. So that gives me negative 4. I don't put this multiplication in here. I work it out on a sheet of paper. And when I work it out, I put the answer in. So 2/5 times negative 10 is 4. Notice 5 into 10 goes 2 and negative 4. 1/5 times x is 1/5 x. And 1/5 times 15 over 1. 5 into 15 goes 3. So that becomes a plus 3. Notice you could get 1 times 15 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. And then you get a 3 when you divide. But whatever way you do it. Do your working for some of this on the side. And just put your answer in. Because if your 3 is wrong, then you multiply wrong and the teacher or you know where your mistake is. X is on the left, change the sign. Numbers on the right, change the sign. So plus 5x becomes subtract 5x, minus 4 becomes plus 4. Already a common denominator of 5, so 2 subtract 1 is 1x, so 1/5 x equals 7. 1/5 reciprocal is 5. Multiply both sides by 5. 5 times 1/5 is 1. 7 times 5, you can use dot. Notice I'm using the dot here. You could use brackets if you want like that. And that's a 35 when you multiply. Your choice. And number 9, we got all multiplications. Here we go. That's a negative 1/3. And negative 1/3 times negative 6 makes a positive. So 3 into 6 goes 2. A half times x is a half x. And a half times 10. 2 into 10 goes 5. So there's a plus 5. Notice it's 10 over 1. So the 2 here is canceling into the 10 because it's 10 over 1. And 5/6 times x is 5/6 x. And 5/6 times negative 6 over 1. 6 into negative 6 goes negative 1, so you get a negative 5. Notice, positive times a negative is a negative. And the 6's cancel. And working it out separate like this, make sure you don't make an error. Now we have to simplify. We have to group the x's together here. Now, it's better in this case if you just move all the x's together to get a count, because it's possible sometimes to have a common denominator here, which is 6, and the denominator over here could be different. So in this case, it might be easier to group all your x's, move that over, and do your common denominator for all of them at the one time. So that's a minus, and that's a minus. So this, that's a minus stays, that's a plus that stays. This moves over to become a minus. The plus 2 becomes a minus 2. The plus 5 becomes a minus 5. And that minus 5 is right there. Now the common denominator for these is 6. Common denominator for 2 and 3 is 6. 6 is here. 6 is the common denominator for all these. So 3 into 6 goes 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 2 into 6 goes 3. 3 times 1 is 3. minus, and 5, 6 is the same, 5, 6. And add all them up, and you get a negative 12. Negative 2, negative 5, negative 5, you get negative 12. And when you add these, common denominator is 6, and you get that's a plus and negative if you want to make sure. So that's 1 as a negative 4x equals negative 12. Now, sometimes some people will reduce the fraction. If you reduce a fraction, it makes the multiplication easier. So 4 over 6 becomes 2 over 3. You can divide both of them by 2. 2 is the GCF. And that means you can multiply now by negative 3 over 2. So reducing this makes the multiplication easier. Your choice. And they all cancel out. 2 into 2, 1s, 3 into 3s, 1. That gives me 1. And that's a 12 over 1. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into negative 12 goes negative 6. And that gives me 18 for the final answer here. Again, manipulating the fractions, so important. Because the more practice, the better. And we have a final page here, page 404. And practice means pause the video and work all of these out to see if you're going to get them right. So here we go. X's on the left. Change the sign when you move them. Numbers on the right. Change minus to a plus. So plus 1/4 x became a negative 1/4. Subtract. Negative 1/3 became a plus 1/3. Now I need common denominators. So common denominator here is 4. So that's okay. So 2 into 4 goes 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So 2 over 4 is same as a half. And that's an x. Common denominator here is a 6. They're different. So that's okay. 2 and 3 common denominator is 6. 2 into 6 goes 3. 3 times negative 1, negative 3. 3 into 6 goes 2. 2 times 2 is 1. That's the same as multiplying this by 2 over 2. And multiplying this one by 3 over 3. Same thing. What I do, I just divide 2 into 6, get 3, and I multiply. 3 into 6 goes 2, and I multiply. Divide the denominators and multiply by the numerator. Just as quick. But common denominator is 4. So 2 subtract 1 is 1. Common denominator is 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Now I have to multiply by reciprocal, which is 4. 4 is cancelled, so I get an x. That's over 1. So when I multiply, I can cancel here. I got two choices now. I can go negative 4 over 6 and then divide by 2. That's one way. Or I can, because I'm multiplying, I can cancel. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into 6 goes 3. So that gives me negative 2. 3 times 1 is 3. So I can multiply them and then cancel, or cancel and then multiply. Number 11. I got to go 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 1/6 is 1/3. Let's work it out up here. 2 times 1 over 6. 2 over 1. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into 6 goes 3. So that's 1/3. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And check it up here. Negative 3 times a half. Put the 3 over 1. And notice they don't cancel. So that becomes negative 3 over 2. You could say negative 3 over 2 and make it 1 and 1/2, but leave it as an improper fraction because you're going to have to add them together. And the 1/6 doesn't change. And we group like terms. So because there's fractions, let's put them, all the x's on one side and all the numbers on the right side. So this one moves over to become a minus. This one moves over to become a plus. That's a 5x. That's okay. Now, see why I put all the fractions together? Because I get one denominator when they're all together. So common denominator here is 6. 6. 6. 2 into 6 goes 3. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. 6 and, oh, that don't change. 6 into 6 goes 1. 1 times 1 is 1, no change. 3 into 6 goes 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And 5x is okay. Common denominator is 6. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. Negative 8, add on negative 2 is negative 10. And let's notice negative 10 over 6 becomes a negative 5 over 3 if we reduce it. Reducing fractions makes it easier. Multiply by 1/5. 1/5, reciprocal of 5 is 1 over 5. Multiply by 1/5. 5's cancel, I get a 1. Notice here, the 5 and the 5 goes 1, 5 and that goes negative 1. And I get a negative 1 over 3. So I try to do these a little bit different so you don't get used to a certain pattern. But notice, each of these are working out sometimes different. Number 12, a half times x is a half x. And a half of 4, I think everybody can say 2. 1/4 times x is 1/4 x. And 1/4 times 2, 1/4 times, I could say negative 2. That's over 1. So that gives you negative 2 over 4, which is 1 over negative 1 over 2. Or you can cancel. 2 into that goes negative 1. 2 into that goes 2. So that gives you negative 1/2. You can cancel and then multiply, or you can multiply it out and then cancel. Your choice. 1/2 minus 1/4. Negative 1/2 minus 2. Plus becomes a minus. Plus becomes a minus. Common denominator is 4. 4 is a multiple of 2. So 2 into 4 goes 2. 2 times 1 is 2. That won't change. That's an x. The common denominator here is a 2. So if that's a 2, 2 over 1, that becomes a 4 because you're multiplying it by 2 over 2, remember. So a negative 2 is negative 4 over 2. Just check. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Common denominator is 4, so 2 subtract 1 is negative 1x. And that's a 2. And negative 1 add on negative 4 is a negative 5. And we're multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1 over 4 is 4. And it got to be negative. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. The 4's cancel. Negative 4 over here. Negative 4 on the right side. They cancel. Negative times negative is positive. 4 cancels into 4 once. So I get a 1. And that's a 4 over 1 understood. 2 into 4 goes negative 2. Negative 5 times negative 2 is 10. 10 is the answer to this. Again, if you put the 10 back in and check it out, just for a bit of fun. Didn't ask you to do it. Let's put the 10 back in. I'm doing it very quickly, so I'm substituting 10 into here and here. So that's a 14, and that's an 8. A half of, I said a 10, wasn't I? Wow. Do I have an error? That's a 7. And that's a 2. Oop. That's a 8. And how come I got an error? 4. That seems to be right. Did I make an error? Negative? Can't find the error. I said 10 was the answer. 5 over 2 is negative 5. That's a plus and that's a minus. That's a minus. I can't see it. Can't find it. Cannot find it. 10 plus 4. 14. A half of 14 is 7. I should have a 7 over here. But I don't. I got a 2. Means that's not the right answer. We go through it again. 1/2 times x, half x. Half of 4 plus 2. 1/4 of x, 1/4 x. That's a 2 over 4 is negative. That's a positive, makes a minus. That's a plus, makes it a minus. Yep. 1/2 minus 1/4. Yep. That's a 2. Negative 1/4. And negative 4 is negative 5. Multiplied. Can't find it. Don't know. Anyway, one of those Right now, if you find it, correct the video and you'll be okay. So I'm putting a half in to check to see if I'm right. I can't find that one up there. Because it's a video, because it's going long and long and long. See if you can find the error and correct me. I, for some reason right now, it's something I'm missing. So put a half in the place of x with a bracket, so that's 1/12. 1/3 times a negative 1/3 is a negative 1/6. Common denominator is 12. So that's a 1. 2 and 12 goes 6. 6 times 1 is 6. That's a 7/12. 12 is a common denominator of 6 and 4. 12 and 6 into 12 goes 2. So that's a negative 2. 4 into 12 goes 3. So that's a 3. So that's a 1/12. So it's not a root. No, it's not a root. And I still can't find this one right here. I got to go again once more. 1/2 times x, 1/2 x. 1/2 of 4 is 2. Okay? 1/4 times x, 1/4 x. 1/4 times negative 2 is 2/4, which is negative 1/2. That becomes a minus. That becomes a minus. And 4 is a common denominator, so that's a 2/4. Subtract 1/4. That's a 1/4. And I got a negative 5/2. Multiplied it by negative 4. Multiplied it by negative 4, and I got a 10. I still can't see it. 10 plus 4 is 14. Half of 14 is 7. 10 minus 2 is 8. Nope. I will find that later. Hopefully you will find it, but I can't find it right now. Sometimes when you look at it, you just can't see what's going on. Work that out and find my mistake. And I thank you very much, but I can't find it right now. I'll look at it again when I'm off the video to work it through again, but I can't. I'm making the same mistake over and over. Sometimes that happens. You just can't see it. You just make this, what I call silly error. Anyway, sorry for number 12. I'll work that out and I'll get the right answer somehow. I'll work it out. If you like my video, click the like button. If you want to be a subscriber, click the subscribe button. Click the notification bell if you're a subscriber, because you get more videos coming. And write a comment if you wish. Probably write a comment on how I couldn't solve number 12. Remember, that happens. As I say, we're all not perfect. So when you make a mistake, I will go offline and I will find the answer to that and I will find the mistake. And when I do, I'll write that on my next video, the video that comes right after this, and I'll do that one over. On the next video, the first thing I'll do on one separate page, I'll work number 12 out. So if you're following my videos, you'll see me work it out. And visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com. And there you got 3 sections. My me is degrees in teaching experience. The video is strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. Section on content will have the topics and the number of videos on each topic. Black font is online right now on the YouTube channel, which is Math Fully Explained. And the red font is what I'll be doing in the near future. Thank you very much. But I will have that number 12 done on the next video, first page. Thank you. See you later.